I'm Patrick Byers, Horticulture Field Specialist with University of Missouri Extension. Let's talk about herbs. It's a beautiful June day and we're thinking about harvesting herbs. So in my garden I have a wide variety of different types of herbs, and this particular bed has a nice planting of dill. Now dill can be harvested at any stage, from a very small plant to a mature plant that has dried seeds on, but typically this would be the stage at which you would harvest it to use the foliage or to dry the foliage, or even use it to make something like dill pickles. Now, when it comes to harvesting herbs, the best time to harvest herbs is in the morning. You want to harvest them while the volatile oils that give so much flavor and character to the herbs are in their highest levels. And if you wait till late in the day, particularly on a warm day, those oils may volatilize to some degree and be lost. So harvest your herbs early in the day, but wait till the dew is dried. You don't want to get out there too early in the morning. So harvest in the morning, after the dew is dried. That's a good time to collect the herbs. And in the case of dill, I like to cut mine at the ground, or sometimes I even pull it up. And we'll go ahead and pull one of these up here. And then this is what we have now to harvest. I'll take this inside and I'll pull the leaves off, like we see here, and the young shoots. Oh, that fragrance is so wonderful. Wonderful. And then we'll take this inside and I'll either hang it in a bundle like this to dry, or I might lay it out on a clean cloth and let it dry that way. If I'm in a hurry, I'll put it into my dehydrator on low temperature and dry it that way. But I'll go ahead and separate these leaves and dry them, and then I'll have dill to enjoy during the winter and spring till my next crop comes on. One of my favorite herbs is cilantro. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with the foliage on cilantro. You can chop it and put it into guacamole. You can use it in Latin American dishes or Asian dishes. There's just so many ways to use this wonderful fragrant herb. But one of the things that I like to do with cilantro is let some of the plants grow beyond the stage where you would harvest the leaves. And here's an example. This is one of my earlier plantings of cilantro. And I've let it grow, it's blossomed. You can see some of the flowers over here. And incidentally, cilantro blossoms are excellent for pollinating insects. They're a wonderful source of pollen, and when I come out here during the day, I can find a host of different types of insects feeding on the pollen produced by these blossoms. But I'm interested not in the blossoms, but in the seed that is going to develop. And we can see here that these plants have flowered, and we can see these developing seed. And this seed, after it dries, if we get out here in time before it shatters, we can harvest this and further dry it, and it becomes the herb coriander. And coriander, of course, has its own uses in cuisine. It's a wonderful herb, very fragrant, and easy to dry and keep for year-round use. As a group, the mints are some of the most fragrant and useful of the herbs. Now, these perennial herbs will come back every year. You plant them once and then step back because they will grow. And it's important to plant them in a place where they're not going to become a bit of an invasive in your garden. But find the right spot for them, plant them, and then step back and they will grow. This is apple mint. I like to collect my apple mint for drying before the plants actually blossom. So this is just about the right stage to collect. And when I collect apple mint, I like to collect the upper 1/3 of the stem. That's where the younger leaves are. That's where there's a good level of aromatic oils in these leaves, and they'll make a very nice dried product. So I go ahead and cut these like we see here. And this is what we'll take inside and dry. Now, one of the keys to understanding the mints is that they have square stems. This is a common characteristic among the members of this particular family. That way, when you're harvesting, you'll know for sure that you got mint, not something else like the nettles that are in this bed next to the mint. But at any rate, we'll take these inside, and sometimes I dry them on the stems, especially if I'm going to hang them. In other cases, I'll pull the foliage off like this and dry the leaves individually. One of my favorite herb-based drinks is peppermint tea, and for that very reason, I maintain a bed of peppermint. And what would be better than a sprig of this peppermint in a glass of iced tea, or perhaps even in a mint julep? Now, peppermint is a fabulous herb. Again, you plant it, it's carefree, it will continue to grow, and again, this bed started here, and now it's working its way down my flower bed, but that's just fine because I like peppermint. So again, harvesting the mints, I tend to harvest them before they flower, And this is just the right stage to harvest the peppermint, and I harvest the upper third of the stem. And by cutting it there, we have two shoots that will now grow from where the leaves connect here, and I'll have another crop of mint that I can come in a little bit later on and harvest again. And so again, I'll take these stems, and sometimes I'll bundle them together and dry them like that, or I may go in and pull off the foliage and dry the leaves individually. What would pizza be without oregano? Or for that matter, any Italian dishes is made better by the addition of some oregano. Oregano is a member of the mint family. Like all mints, it has a square stem. And like most mints, it's best harvested before it flowers. I'm a little bit late in harvesting my oregano. You can see we have flowers beginning to develop, but still have a lot of stems that haven't flowered out yet. So I'll come in and again, I'll clip the upper third of the stems, cutting above a pair of leaves. And I'll get regrowth from here that I can come back later on and harvest again. And again, I have these beautiful stems of oregano. With oregano, I tend to dry them like this on the stem, and then when they're dry, I can just come in with my fingers and strip the foliage off and then enjoy it, as I mentioned, in many different types of dishes. There are two plant families that contain a wealth of herbs. The first of these families is the mint family, and members of the mint family that we enjoy as herbs certainly include mint, but they also include basil and oregano and savory and thyme and rosemary. But the other family is the parsley family, and in that family we have members such as dill and fennel and cilantro and anise and caraway, and of course parsley. And what we have here is parsley. This is a type of parsley called Italian flat parsley. And again, another indispensable herb in Italian and Mediterranean cooking. Now this particular parsley plant is in its second year. Now parsley is a biennial. The first year it just forms a rosette, and then the second year it sends up a flower stalk. And that's what we see here. We've actually already cut the center out, but we can still enjoy the foliage that develops on this stalk. Once the plant flowers, it will die. And so that's why it's important to plant parsley every year so that you have a good consistent supply. But when we harvest parsley, we just cut the foliage, and it's most frequently used as a fresh herb. And parsley doesn't dry particularly well, so generally best again to grow it, use it as a fresh herb. You can freeze it if you like, and that will give a better product, but even frozen parsley is inferior to fresh parsley from the standpoint of its use in cooking. There are so many different types of thyme. Thyme, of course, is a member of the mint family, and like all mints, it has a square stem. But thyme is known as a ground cover or a plant that it displays beautifully if it's allowed to cascade over a wall or some other structure like we have here in the herb garden. This particular thyme is English thyme. It's one of the original types of thyme, but there's, again, so many different types. So there's variegated thymes. There's thymes that have variations on the fragrance. There's even lemon thyme, which has a lemon fragrance. Now, harvesting thyme is done right about at this stage. Again, you see the first of the blossoms showing up on the plants. We typically harvest thyme by cutting the stems, and it's a fairly small plant, so we can cut these stems, and then these stems, I will dry them like this. I generally spread them on a clean cloth and allow them to dry. And once they're dry, then I'll come in and I'll strip off the foliage and then discard the stems.